Thanks.
Camera's good? Yeah, you're good. You're good. Okay. All right. Head coach Eric Ramsay, we'll get started with some questions from me.
Eric, congratulations on your first win. What were your kind of main takeaways from the match?
I think we looked organised, disciplined, difficult to break down, threat on the counter-attack, showed real energy, togetherness, and a spirit that the team has shown up until this point, which I was really reliant on the team continuing with. And we want to evolve toward being a team that looks like that really consistently, where we are very difficult to break down and we are a real threat on the counter-attack, and I think you saw that for large portions of the game at least.
You talked with us yesterday about having a compact defense and that kind of being a principle that you'll take to your grave.
Yeah.
And it felt like that was kind of constant throughout. Bawanga didn't really have many chances. Did you feel like that was kind of what you wanted to see?
I think we controlled him really well. Obviously, he's a really important player for them, and that was a big part of the strategy today, to make sure that we didn't give him a great deal of space to work. And that applies to a lot of their front players. They're undoubtedly some of the best in the league, some of the best that I've seen in the games that I've watched so far. So I think it's testament to how the back line was, how the midfield players were, how we were as a unit, that we were able to kill the space and give them very little.
What do you think you'll remember the most about tonight, and having done this just for your first time?
It's difficult to look past the ending there. It's spectacular, isn't it? It really is. I think it's absolutely unique, and I've obviously heard an awful lot about how it feels to win a home game, and I didn't want to make too big a deal of it prior to that. I knew it would come eventually. I was really hopeful that it would come today. Felt an element of pressure for it to come today, so I'm really happy that it has.
How does that Wonderwall compare with the British University Championships?
It was significantly better, I would say. Yeah.
Talk about Devin Padelford making his first start for the senior team, and when they did switch from their two wingers, was there any information that got passed to the back line?
Number one, I thought he played really, really well. I didn't have any doubts based on what I've seen so far that he was capable of doing what he's done today. Seems to me a really good professional, very athletic, got a big margin for improvement, I would say, based on those two things alone. He's just spoken in front of the group there on the back of him playing his first game in the MLS from the start. Speaks really well, really mature guy. So I think he'll be an important part of the group, so I'm really pleased for him. And as far as the information goes, no, not in particular. I think just the general stuff that we work toward.
Coach, para la afición de habla hispana, ¿cómo se sintió en este primer partido como director técnico del Minnesota United?
Absolutamente fenomenal. Es casi como un sueño en ese sentido, porque todos los aficionados hablan de la atmósfera aquí, y para mí muy temprano en mi tiempo aquí, ganar aquí es enorme, absolutamente enorme.
¿Qué podemos esperar de este equipo ahora que llegó al banquillo?
Yo quiero asegurar que el equipo juega con el mismo energía y la disciplina que ha hecho hasta ese punto, pero con una evolución tácticamente mucho más compacto, pero queremos presionar como hemos hecho hasta ese punto en la temporada.
Eric, we saw this team high press very early on in games. Today we didn't see it nearly as much kind of early on. Was that kind of the tactic you wanted to see?
Yeah, I think we have to, first and foremost, we have to be compact, difficult to play through, but always with that intention to be front foot, to be aggressive and make sure that we do make it very difficult for teams to progress. So obviously we didn't always strike the balance well today. We have to, as has been mentioned over the course of the first 2 or 3 games, we have to make sure that we pick our moments well to press, but as default we have to be a team that's going to be high pressing, particularly at home, and we have to make it very difficult for teams to come here. But you don't always choose to be a team that high presses constantly in a game. The opposition often, if they're very good on the ball and they drop enough players deep and outside your shape, they make it impossible for you to high press. So sometimes you do have to come from a mid block, you have to defend your box well. So it's naive to think that we're going to spend the entire game pressing on the top of the opposition's box. It just doesn't happen.
How important is the team's culture to your potential success this season?
It's fundamental, and I appreciate that. I'm in a honeymoon period, so generally the players are going to be responsive to me. There's going to be a good energy. There's going to be a good feel to the place. It's my responsibility to make sure that continues, that the players really feel connected to the way the team plays, that they feel as though what they're doing as part of our group is going to move them forward, and that's what breeds a good culture, that everyone wants to come in and everyone wants to get better, and they feel the environment that me and the staff create is one in which they can do that, and I felt that this week, and we've got to make sure that continues.
What were the substitutions for Reynoso and Fragapane, were they planned for the 60th minute?
We wanted to make sure that we had good energy in the team, and that was sustained. Obviously, I was reliant on the fact that Ray coming on would give the stadium some energy, and it would give the team a different dynamic, and it did. You could really feel the energy when the combination of those two players came onto the pitch. But that also applies to both Bongi and Tani as well. I think substitutions across those front players mean that you can keep up a certain intensity, that you can play with a good energy. So I think to a certain extent that worked well across all the changes.
Eric, you talked a little bit about a sense of pressure in your first game. What were the emotions during the game, and then afterwards? I saw you kind of hang back and just kind of soak in, wonder wall. Walk me through emotions during and after.
Oh, I think during the game, I used to get asked this about being at Man United and being on the side of the pitch at Old Trafford, and it actually you become oblivious to that stuff. I think during the game you're fixated on the game and the interaction between the two teams and what you can do to influence it. But certainly at the end of the game, it's a phenomenal moment, and I can't imagine that I'll forget that at any point. It's a really special place to be, and the atmosphere is everything that people said it would be.
At halftime, you were leading 1-0. What, if anything, was stressed either to change or to keep consistent going into the second half?
I think it was the consistency of being difficult to beat, making sure that we retained a level of aggression that from that compact mid-block that we worked in, that we were able to work our way up the pitch, build pressure, be front foot, be aggressive, not start to sink into the box, which I think we did. I think there's always a natural tendency when you're leading a game to get closer and closer to your box, and it's really difficult for a group of players not to fall into that. Hence why we started to make some changes. We wanted to keep the energy up and make sure that we had fresh legs and we had an intensity across the front players. So I think that did help us toward the end of the game, but certainly that was a message at half-time.
What did you feel like were the key points on Robin's goal?
Do you know what? I haven't seen Robin's goal back, and it is a little bit of a blur, but obviously we will be a team that will make a lot of noise internally around set plays and their importance. So there was a lot of purpose behind that, albeit it looked relatively messy. There was a lot of there was a framework wrapped around that goal. So I was really pleased in that sense because it reflected some of the work that's been done on the pitch this week.
Any more, Coach?
Good. Thanks, guys.